Today we're going to automate task creation for our business using Airtable. Now over here in my demo base, you can see that I am running a real estate team. Now the system that I'm going to help you build today is a simplified version of many of the systems that we at the DealOps automation team have helped a lot of our real estate clients build for their own businesses. There are a lot of things that need to be done for these deals as they move through the pipeline. So today we're going to set up Airtable to automatically generate tasks for everything that needs to be done once a deal enters a new stage. So for example, if a seller client goes under contract, I may want Airtable to generate a few tasks like send an intro email to the buyer's agent, remind my client to schedule utility shutoff, or schedule closing. And I want all of these to automatically get generated by Airtable as tasks so that we can track them individually once the deal's stage changes. So today we're going to build an automation to do this in Airtable for us. Now, let me show you how this is going to work once it's all done. Let's say that I want a task with the title, reach out to cooperating agent, to automatically generate whenever a seller goes under contract. Now, configuring this is simple. I'll just go over to my task templates table and make a new template here, and I will give it the title, reach out to cooperating agent. I'll leave the instructions blank because this seems pretty self-explanatory, and I want this to generate for seller clients when they go under contract. Now, when we get the good news that our client at 123 Main Street has accepted an offer, and we update the stage to under contract, we'll see that these tasks get automatically generated by an automation in Airtable. So here we can see the task popped in this cell. And then we also have a table called tasks where we can go and we can track the status of any of these in-flight tasks. And again, if we have another deal called 555 Rainy Street, and this is another seller, when we get the good news that they went under contract, the exact same thing will happen and we'll see a task get generated with that same title. And again, if we go to the tasks table, then we see the task here for Rainy Street and the task here for 123 Main Street. Great. Now that we know how this is going to work, let's go ahead and start fresh in a brand new base so that I can show you how to build this task creation system from scratch in Airtable. Okay, so here we are in a new base, and I'm going to start by setting up the three tables that I showed you earlier. These are transactions, tasks, and task templates. Great, now let's go ahead and set up the columns for these. So for transactions, I'm going to just keep it simple. I'll have an address field. This will be a long text. And then I'll just have two single select fields, one for client type and one for stage. Great, now let's go ahead and set up our tasks table. For tasks, I'm going to have a primary field called title. And then let's have a long text field for instructions. And let's have a place for the person doing the task to leave comments as they want to document things. Now, task templates is very simple. We just need a title to get copied into tasks generated and instructions. Then we also need a single select for the client type and the deal stage where we want this to cause a task to get generated. So for these single select fields, one thing to be very careful of is they need to exactly match the single select values that we put on the transactions table. So what I like to do here is I like to open two windows side by side and have the transactions table in one and the task templates table in the other one so that I can just copy everything over. And let me show you what I mean by that. So here on the right-hand side, I'm going to open the transactions table, and I want to look at the options that I put for client type here. And now in task templates, I'm going to be creating the exact same dropdown with the exact same options. So this will be a single select, and I'm just going to copy the values over. Okay, and now the other thing that we need is we need to specify the stage when we want this template to generate a task. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, copy over all of the stages that I have on transactions, and make sure that I have the exact same options available on the task template. Okay, great. So now we have our basic table setup done. Now, one more thing that I want to do is on my tasks, I want them to be able to link to a particular transaction because I want to be able to see the relationship between a transaction and all of its related tasks. So I'm going to go ahead and add a column here called transaction, and this is going to be a link to a transaction. Now, one task should only be able to belong to a single transaction, and so I'm going to uncheck this option here and then create field. We won't create lookups right now. And so now we have a system where we can create tasks and link them to the transaction they're related to. The one other thing I'd like to be able to track is I'd like to be able to link a task to the template that it was generated from. So let's go ahead and create another linked record for task templates. And now we have all of our fields in place for a basic task tracking system. Now that we have our tables in place, it's time to set up the real magic, which is the automation. So for this, we're going to navigate to the Automations tab, and we are going to start configuring a new automation. Now, the first thing we need to do is decide on the trigger. Now remember, we want this automation to run when a deal changes stage. So in order to do this, I'm going to choose when record updated as the trigger. And I want the record that triggers this automation to be the transaction. And specifically, I want to watch the stage field because stage updating is what actually should trigger task creation. Okay, now to test our automation, we're going to need to have a record that we can use as a sample. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the data here and back to the transactions table, and I'm going to create a record that I can test against. So let's call this a seller who's under contract, and I'm going to go ahead and delete these two records here. So let's go back to our automation, and now we need to choose a record to test against. I'm going to go ahead and choose this record. Okay, next we're going to set up the actions. The logic of this automation is going to be as follows. When a record changes stage, we need to look in the task templates table for any task templates that match this client type and stage for this record. So for that, the first thing that we're going to need to do is find records in the task templates table. Then once we have that list of task templates that match based on the stage and the client type, we're going to loop through each one of those matching templates and create a task from each one of those. Okay, so the first step is to look inside of the task templates table. For this, we're going to go ahead and choose the find records action. Let's give this a description that says find matching task templates. Now we want to find records in the task templates table, and we want to find them based on conditions. Now, the conditions are going to be as follows. We want to find templates where the client type is the same as the client type on the deal that triggered the automation. So to do this, we're going to choose where client type, and this is looking at the client type of the task template, is, and then I'm going to click this little wheel over here and say dynamic. This is what allows me to, instead of having this set to a preset value, have it be responsive to the values that are present in the object that triggered this automation. So I click that little plus here, and then we're going to go and take data from the record that triggered this action, and we want it to match the client type. And so we're going to choose client type there, and then we're going to choose name. And we want to find the task templates where the client type matches, but also where the stage matches. So we're also going to look at stage, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go over here, say dynamic, and then we're going to go look at the record that triggered this, and say that it needs to match that stage's name. Great. Now again, in order for us to test this, we are going to need to have task templates that match the stage and client type of this record. So to do this, I'm going to go back to the data table, and I'm going to go to task templates, and let's add one here, call cooperating agent. And I want to do this whenever a seller deal goes under contract. And I'll go ahead again and just delete these empty records. Okay, now we have a deal, a transaction that we're testing whose client type is seller and whose stage is under contract. And so we would expect that this find record step should find the task template that we just created. So let's go ahead and click test action. And there we go. We see that this step found this one task template that we created here. Let's go ahead and add another one, call lender, and I'm going to go ahead and make this the same. Now let's test this again, and now I would expect that this find records step will find 2 records. Good, there we go. Okay, so we know that this is working. Now the next step involves a little bit more configuration. Now keep in mind that we have run this find records action, and this has given us back a list of records that matched our criteria. So what we need to do is we need to loop through each one of those. We need to repeat some actions on each one of those matching records. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to use this repeating group. Now, what this repeating group does is it lets us put actions in here inside of the repeating group, and it will perform all of these actions against each record that is in the input list. So let's go ahead and select the input list. And we want the input list to be the result from this find record step, right? Because that's the task templates that matched. And so let's go ahead and test input list. And so we see here that the input list is these 2 matching task templates. That's great. Now, what do we want to do for each of those matching templates? Well, we want to create a record in the tasks table. So here we're going to go ahead and add a create record step. Now this, I'm going to give a description, and I'm going to say create new task. And we're going to create a record in the tasks table. And we're going to go ahead and copy over some fields from the template. So the title of the new task should be the same as the title of the template. Now the template is the current item that we are looping over in this loop here. So we're going to choose current item, and then we will choose title. Same thing with instructions, current item, and then we will copy over the instructions from the template. Now the other thing is I want to link this task to the transaction that was updated here. So I'm going to edit the transaction field, and I'm going to have that match to the record that triggered this automation, because that's the transaction. So we're going to go here, and we can choose Airtable record ID. And then similarly, I want to have this link to the template that it was generated from. So I'm going to go here, click template. And remember, the template is the current item that we're looping over. So I'm going to go to current item and Airtable record ID. Now let's go ahead and we're going to generate a preview of what this create record step is going to do. Okay, good. So this would have created a record in the tasks table. Now we have a working automation. All that we need to do is we need to turn this automation on. And let's go back to the data, and let's see if we can trigger this automation by changing the stage of this deal. So first I'll change it to active listing, and that should trigger the automation, but because we don't have any matching templates right now for active listing, it should not give any results. It should not generate anything. So let's go back to the automation. Let's look at the run history, and we can see that it just ran successfully. This was a success, find records was a success, but it didn't return any results because we don't have any templates that match that stage. So now if we do this again, Let's update this stage to under contract. Now we should see those tasks actually get generated. And there we have it. So we can see that those tasks got generated automatically. And if we go back into automations here, we can look at the run history. We see there's another more recent run. And if I click here, I can look at all of the items that were created, and this looks exactly how I wanted. So there you have it. You now have a working task creation automation in Airtable. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for more detailed walkthroughs like this one. And if you're interested in taking your business's automation to the next level, come schedule a free session with our team of automation experts at dealopsautomation.com/free session. We're founded by ex-Airtable employees who've spent years deep in the heart of the automation movement, and we help our clients automate their operations in real estate, business operations, RevOps, and more. On top of that, we know code. Our extensive experience as software engineers empowers our clients to work past many of the limitations that are inherent to existing no-code tools, because we can deliver a higher level of customization by writing custom code when necessary. Thanks again for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.